Chasing a guy for years when he clearly did not love me nor respect me. Today in Town Reddit Stories. Which is the decision you regret the most? My older sister texted me asking if I would want to chat on the phone while she was moving across the country. I was pretty tired from work and told myself I'll text her in the morning to see how the first part of her drive went. She passed away in a car accident that night. I regret not calling my sister. Reply? For all you know, it would have happened while you were on the phone and you'd have spent the rest of your life thinking it was your fault. Don't beat yourself up. There was no way you could have possibly known it was your last chance. What matters is that you were close enough that she thought of you when she wanted to talk. I'm really sorry for your loss. Deciding to enter a career in healthcare. Reply? I went from being a FM physician to being a dog trainer. Zero regrets, except the debt. The debt is crippling. Wish I had really sat down and thought about what I was actually getting myself into before going to medical school. My wife is a doctor. Before she started her fellowship, I finally found out the number of her debt. Almost shit my pants. I never wanted to know. We devoted 18 months of 100% of my salary and as much as we could afford of hers. $300K was the amount she owed, and it was gone within 18 months. Was an amazing feeling and daunting in the beginning. We have no kids, so that certainly helped. The last time I left my wife in her hospital room, when she was awake, she was busy with nurses and I needed to go pick up our daughter from daycare. So instead of kissing her and giving her a nuzzle goodbye, I waved and said goodbye, expecting that I would be able to talk to her the next day. Nope. She was never awake again and she passed away a few days later. I wish I'd waited to kiss her, but she'd been in the hospital a lot, and I had no idea it was going to be that bad. Reply? She knew you loved her. I know that missing out on that one kiss feels so important, but it was really the hundreds of kisses that came before that really mattered. No, this hurts so bad just to think about. I'm so sorry. Letting myself be isolated and get really sad and overweight before doing something about it. Only really started living at 32 feels like I wasted a lot of my life. Reply? No, you have a plenty time remaining, you have to make it count, you have realized that time is important, so you have to head over your mistakes now. Answer? That's very kind of you, I really appreciate it. Thank you. My family not going into the room with my dog when he had to be put down. My dad told me it would be too hard to handle and I shouldn't have listened to him. I was the closest to him and I should have been there for his last moments. I let my dad know how much I regretted it and convinced him to go in with his dog years later. He's glad he did. Reply? I made this mistake. He was my first pet and I was just a stupid teenager. I honestly didn't even know you had to make a decision until they asked. I was alone and I panicked and I thought maybe I shouldn't watch, so I didn't. They brought him out to me and I immediately realized my mistake. It is my single largest regret. I was so close to Vader and I abandoned him right at the end. It honestly makes me hate myself. Reply? I'm sorry for your loss, my little guy died in my wife's arms this past October. I couldn't get him to the vet fast enough, but I'm not sure it would have mattered. He was 14 and could barely walk. I love and miss him. There's a story online about the Rainbow Bridge you should look up, but be aware you will cry. I'm tearing up texting this to you. Avoiding my dad the day he died. Long story short, I owed him $200 for like 2 months and every check I got I kept not paying him back like an irresponsible ass. Morning he died, I was sneaking around the house avoiding him, as it was a Friday and I thought he'd mention I got paid that day. I waited for him to hop on the computer and snuck out the door for work. Last thing I saw was his back in his navy blue shirt and his clunky dad white New Balance shoes tucked under his chair. I saw them again about 4 hours later when he was dead in the hospital from a pulmonary embolism. The night before we had a really pleasant talk though, so I try to think about that instead. Edit, bummed a lot of you out, I'm sorry. So here's the night before to cheer you up. So the night before he and I ended up having leftover Panda Express and watched a good chunk of There's Something About Mary playing on TV. He kept saying, you know you boys could do this stuff. Referring to my brothers and me, we're the jokesters in the family, and he was always encouraging that creativity. Anyway, he cried laughing when Matt Dillon fought the little dog despite seeing it numerous times before, and told me he was getting to bed shortly after. He asked if I wanted the lights on or off in the living room. I said it didn't matter, And he went, "All right, Samo, see you tomorrow," and that was it. I heard his footsteps on his way up the stairs. I had no reason to assume our interaction the next day would be unpleasant, which is what made my decision even worse. Reply: I don't know why, but this one hit me really hard. Sorry man, that's rough. Reply: my father passed away when I was 13. He was an alcoholic, and while we were super close when I was younger, as I got older and saw what alcohol was doing to him, I started majorly resenting him. He was never physically abusive, and not really mentally abusive. He just had a bad temper and would yell a lot. But he made 6 figures as a plumber, and the mortgage would bounce because he needed beer. My mom was looking into divorcing him. Anyways, about a week before he passed, he vowed to get sober. I pretty much told him to fuck off. Wasn't the first time I heard that. The day he passed away, he got home from work early and made breakfast for dinner, my favorite dinner, and I took my plate to my room because I didn't want to be around him. He had a massive heart attack a few hours later. I regret being so angry. If I had known those were the last days I had with him, I would have done so much different. I've learned a lot since then about addiction. If I had known he was hurting so much, I would have treated him different. I feel a lot of guilt that the last couple of years of his life I pretty much loathed his existence. It's been over a decade and I still feel guilt. Not giving a girl I loved in college more space. Reply: I feel ya on that one. But I'll say this to piggyback off of what Yuki Link said: you were being yourself. I had someone I loved in college, but I didn't know how to give her space and our relationship suffered. I took that hard lesson, and now years later I'm happily married with another amazing person. Every relationship gives us a chance to learn from our mistakes and do better as not only person, but a partner. You'll find your next person, don't sweat it, Joe, no regrets. I spent $23,000 on methamphetamine in 6 months. Haven't touched it in 7 years. Edit: holy crap, I didn't expect this to blow up so hard. Thanks for the support, y'all. To give a little more detail on the food situation and difficulties, my grandfather taught me about survival and woodsmanship since I was a boy. I knew most local flora and fauna, what plants are edible and which ones give you dysentery, how to make basic traps like snares, deadfalls and the like. In the beginning, finding food was hard, even having a decent knowledge of survival. Many of my traps failed repeatedly. The fish catching baskets I wove together were a semi-reliable food source for a while, along with the edible mushrooms in the area and blackberries. Once I got stocked up and salted some rabbit haunches for dinner, it was a huge relief. Turns out cutting down trees with a dull machete is exhausting when you're detoxing, and the last meal was 2 days ago, lol. As it went, things got better and worse by the day, until I hit a big nope toward the end of my stay. Someone ransacked the cave, my fire pit, my belongings, all while I was out checking my ridiculously empty traps. Could have even been a bear, shit was slung everywhere. Either way, it was time to go. My spot had been made and I had no desire to stick around after that. Took me about 6 hours trudging through mud and briar bushes before I made it to the town of Jaeger. From there I stopped at a gas station and called my adoptive mom, brought me to Charleston where I signed on with Gamble Amusements as a ride operator. That's a wild story in itself. But maybe I'll take you guys' advice and put out a proper story someday. Happy holidays. Reply: 7 years. That's awesome, how'd you do it? Answer: after 9 days awake and a hard 2-day crash, I was evaluating my situation and saw the only way out is clean up or die trying, so I did that. Was living in rural West Virginia at the time. Decided I'd best go and get proper fucking lost out in the mountains, otherwise I'd definitely go sniffing for more dope by the end of the day. So I had some buddies drive me out to the woods in McDowell County and found a cave. Lived there primitive for about 3 months. It was hell, but when I came out I was so starved for a cheeseburger, dope didn't even have a place in my mind. Signed on with a carnival, used my savings to get a GED, upward movement ever since. I think of it as sacrificing my old self for my future self. Reply: genuinely the most hardcore get clean story, congrats. Thank you for listening to another B-Town Reddit Stories episode. Hit the subscribe button and check out our channel for more stories. Let us know your opinion about this topic in the comments.